June 18th, 1815. The fields of Waterloo are soaked with rain and with history. Here, the fate of empires will be decided in a single day. But imagine this. The ground trembles. A low mechanical growl rises beneath the storm. What if, instead of horses and cannon, Napoleon Bonaparte commanded an army armed with modern tanks, steel monsters rolling through the mud, shells screaming across the fields, armor unbreakable to musket or cannonball? What if Napoleon had the power of the 20th century, in the age of muskets and sabers? To understand what this means, we must first step into the world of 1815. Napoleon's Grande Armée, 73,000 men, veterans of a decade of war, elite cavalry, disciplined infantry, and the finest artillery Europe had ever seen. Acing them, 68,000 British and Allied troops under the Duke of Wellington. And to the east, a Prussian army marching to join the fight. The weapons of the age are slow, imprecise, and brutal. A musket can fire perhaps 3 rounds a minute. A cannon takes minutes to reload. A charge relies on courage, not coordination. Now replace that world with just 20 modern main battle tanks, let's say French-built Leclercs, each weighing over 50 tons, each armed with a 12mm smoothbore cannon, each protected by armor no weapon of the 19th century could possibly pierce. 20 tanks against 200 years of outdated warfare. A modern tank is not simply a machine. It is speed, power, and terror made visible. Moves at 70 kilometers per hour across open ground. It sees through darkness, through smoke, through rain. It kills at distances no cannon could ever dream of reaching. In 1815, the most advanced artillery could barely hit a target at half a kilometer. A tank can destroy a building at 3. Imagine the shock of Napoleon's generals, Ney, Soult, Drouot, seeing these metal beasts for the first time. Engines roaring like thunder, tracks crushing the earth beneath them, the air thick with the scent of oil and steel. To them, it would look like sorcery. To Napoleon, a weapon worthy of destiny. These would not be mere machines. They would be gods of war. Waterloo was lost to time, tactics, and terrain. Napoleon's genius was undeniable, but the ground itself betrayed him. The rain slowed his artillery. The mud swallowed his horses. And when the Prussians arrived, the French line collapsed. But the battle was more than a clash of armies. It was a struggle between the limits of human endurance and the birth of modern war. Artillery ruled the field, yet it was blind beyond the hill. Infantry fought shoulder to shoulder because communication was primitive. Every movement depended on sound, sight, and courage. Now introduce a weapon from another age. The tank, born a century later, was designed precisely to overcome these same limits, was made to break lines, to crush trenches, to dominate terrain. In a sense, it was Napoleon's dream weapon, delivered far too late. So let us imagine the day not as it was, but as it could have been. Dawn breaks over the fields of Waterloo. The rain has stopped. The mud is thick but passable. Behind the French lines, hidden beneath tops in mist, 20 tanks wait. Engines silent, guns ready. 11:30, the battle begins. Historically, Napoleon opened fire on the farmhouse at Hougoumont, a fortress of brick and wood held by British guards. His cannon thundered for hours, but the walls held. Now, the first tank shell screams through the air. The explosion rips through stone and timber. Within minutes, Hougoumont is gone. The defenders flee, deafened and broken, unable to understand what struck them. By 1 o'clock, Marshal Ney orders the cavalry forward. But this time, they ride beside the tanks. The British lines form their famous squares, tight, disciplined formations, impenetrable to horses. But against tanks, they are nothing. A single shell tears through a square. A burst of machine gun fire shreds entire companies. Cannonballs bounce harmlessly off steel armor. Muskets spark and die against metal plating. No weapon on that field can even scratch a tank's surface. Mid-afternoon, the British Army is in chaos. Wellington's lines crumble. His redcoats break formation and scatter. Smoke and flame consume the field. Then, at 4 o'clock, the Prussians arrive. Historically, they save the day. In this world, they march to their doom. Columns of infantry, thousands strong, advancing in perfect order. They never reach firing range. The tanks open fire, and within minutes, the columns disintegrate. The sound of engines and explosions drowns out everything else. By sunset, it is over. Napoleon stands triumphant. The tricolor flies above Waterloo. There is no defeat, only annihilation. But victory is never just a battle. It is a chain reaction. With Waterloo won, the map of Europe is rewritten. The British Army shattered. The Prussians crushed. The coalition dissolved. France rises again, not as a wounded empire, but as an unstoppable force. Napoleon reclaims his crown and marches into Brussels within days. London trembles. Vienna bows. The monarchies of Europe, built on the illusion of invincibility, collapse before him. Yet the consequences go beyond politics. The very sight of the tanks would ignite a scientific revolution. Engineers would tear them apart, desperate to understand their secrets. Fuel, electricity, metallurgy. The Industrial Revolution would leap forward by a century. The world would modernize overnight. Railways by 1820. Electric power by 1830. Flight perhaps before 1850. But history is never one-sided. An empire armed with such power would not stop at Europe. Napoleon would conquer the world and hold it. No rival, no balance, no democracy. Freedom itself might vanish under the shadow of a mechanical empire. The 19th century would not be the age of nations. It would be the age of one man, one ruler, armed with the weapons of the future. And yet, even gods of war have limits. Modern tanks need more than courage. They need fuel, ammunition, spare parts. They depend on a world of refineries, factories, and mechanics, a world that did not exist in 1815. Within days, their fuel would run out. Their guns would fall silent. Their tracks would rust in the mud. The miracle weapons would become monuments, silent, useless, and strange. Perhaps Napoleon would still win Waterloo. But could he hold his empire when his greatest power could no longer move? The tools of victory are nothing without the world that sustains them. And that is the paradox of progress. The future cannot exist without its foundations. History is not just shaped by genius, but by timing. Napoleon was brilliant, but born too soon. His mind belonged to an age of steel, but his world was still made of wood and powder. If he had possessed tanks, he might have conquered Europe, but he might also have doomed it to endless war, centuries before its time. The tank, in the end, is more than a weapon. It is a symbol of what happens when human ambition outpaces human understanding. Had that power arrived a century earlier, civilization itself might have burned. Waterloo stands today as the end of Napoleon's story. But in another timeline, a world of fire and iron could have been only the beginning. A single battle rewritten, a century reborn, a world forever changed. If one man had commanded the machines of the future, what would the future itself have become?